So welcome everybody. My name is Linda Mae Wacker. I'm the Program Director of Parents Anonymous of Oregon and the Parent Mentor Program, and we are part of Morrison Child and Family Services.
My name is Stacy Rivera. I'm the Program Coordinator in Beaverton, Oregon with Parents Anonymous of Oregon with Morrison Child and Family Services. And my clean date is 10/28 of 09. And I have been with the program for over 5 years.
So before we dive in today to our content, I'll just give a really brief explanation of our program and what we do. So we're based in Portland, Oregon, and we have 3 program offices. We have about 45 total staff and about 39 full-time paid with benefits peer support specialists. In this presentation, we call our staff parent mentors, and I know that peers have lots of different names. The state of Oregon considers the folks that work for us peer support specialists. That's the state's name for them, but throughout this presentation, we'll be talking about parent mentors and the work they do, and they are all peers. I also want to just call out that I am not a peer. I'm a normie and somebody that has gotten to be a student of recovery doing this work for the last 8 years. And one of the things that has been really important in my work, when I started working in our program about 8 years ago, all of the management folks were also normies who didn't have the same lived experience as our client population. And today we have a management team of 8 people, 5 of which are people in recovery. And one day, hopefully I'll work myself out of a job. So today we're gonna talk briefly about recovery-oriented workplace and what that means. We'll touch briefly on our core values that drive our work. We'll talk about our supervision model. We'll talk about the sanctuary model if we don't run out of time. We'll be focusing a lot on team support and connection, why mentors love their jobs, and we may do a small group exercise again, depending how much kind of discussion and Q&A we have. But what I really hope for folks is that we get to share with you some really specific practices and concrete things that you can do in supervising and supporting peers that will be helpful in your practice. We talk a lot about our approach and our philosophy, but we will get to some nitty-gritty tools and things that we hope you can use. When folks have questions, please feel free to raise your hand or use the little icon that helps you to raise your little electronic hand, and I'd love to hear people's voices. You're welcome to use chat instead, and then someone will just have to tell me what the questions are saying. Yeah, okay. Now, let's go.
All right, so you go to the next slide.
Great idea, Stacy.
So recovery. So this is the part where we wanted to ask the question about like, what does recovery mean to you? Just want if people can throw that out there, either in the chat or raising your hand of like what recovery means to you. We know recovery looks different for everybody, so we just wanted to get a couple people to jump in and say a couple things about that. Freedom. Yes.
Hi, my name is Janet. I'm from California. I'm the program coordinator with Share Self-Help Recovery Exchange. I'm at the downtown location. And I guess what recovery means to me is treating the mind, the body, and the spirit, continuing to implement humility, and knowing that, you know, working with others, having a sponsor, sponsees, and treating my disease allows me to be a better person in most areas of my life. My clean date is July 19th, 1999. And I still participate in meetings and I still work with the sponsor. But being in recovery has allowed me to be better in my job as a supervisor.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Josephine from the Netherlands. So it's quite yeah, 22:42. So I'm about to go to bed, but I still want to join you. And what recovery means to me is like bouncing back. Today with this whole situation, this Corona situation, I found myself in having fears, old fears, but I found myself bouncing back, and here I am, alive and joining you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I've seen a couple others that were like meaningful freedom, things that popped up. And then kind of with that is, you know, the next question of what might a recovery-oriented workplace be like? And that's kind of what we do. And I mean, that is what we do. And a lot of us have that of where, you know, there's a lot of honesty, holding each other accountable, self-care, you know, we're able to, you know, see if somebody's struggling and people are able to open up about it within our workspace. And, you know, we're able to offer them to go to a meeting during work, you know, to get what they need, you know, to take care of themselves. Yeah.
Do folks have any other thoughts about what a recovery-oriented workplace would have to be like?
I think being honest, like she just said, and being able to disclose as well. So, you know, the clientele that we serve is a lot of the people are homeless, suffer from mental illness or both. And I get a chance to witness them bouncing back into society, you know, going to support groups, getting housing, getting part-time jobs. The blessing is that they disclose to me and I'm also able to disclose to them, you know, and they give me tangible social support. You know, I have a son that's homeless and still in his addiction by choice. And I share that with the people that come to our client run center. And so they carry me sometimes because even though I'm in recovery and I understand the disease, when it's close to home, sometimes it get overwhelming. And I share it at work and they give me tangible social support. So I love that it's a give and take.
Thank you. Thank you. That sounds to me like you're modeling resilience, right? For the folks that you work with, like you're showing what success looks like and you're allowing them, you're allowing them to see that change and success is possible.
Thank you.
A couple of people say patience and non-judgmental and having compassion towards others.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay, Parents Anonymous, so recovery-oriented workplace, so providing a nurturing and supportive work environment for our staff. So we have a model of recovery first, family second, work third. So we really, you know, work hard and integrate the principles of recovery into our programs with, you know, one of these two, a big one is hope, believing in every person that is capable of change. And, you know, we hold that for everybody we serve. The parents we work with, we're able to walk side by side with them. You know, we're able to share pieces of, you know, the experience of our own lives to be able to connect with them on a level, and let them see that change is possible. And, you know, just because we all suffer from a disease, it doesn't mean that we can't come out on the other end. You know, the parents we serve are child welfare involved and have their children placed in foster care. Every peer parent mentor that works in our program has that experience, that life experience. So we're able to connect on that level and offer, you know, the hope and let them see the change.
So our program motto is, and every single person in our program would tell you that the reason that they love their job is we sort of operate by recovery first, family second, work third. And we know that if folks don't have their recovery and their family is in crisis, they're not going to be able to support parents that we serve, right? Like, if their recovery is solid and things are going well with their family, we know they're going to come to work and do their best.
So this is a picture of one of our team building days that we do once a year with our program. That's a picture of all of our mentors there and supervisors. You know, the 3 criteria that we have to become a mentor is that you have to have 2 years clean. You have to have had a history with child welfare. So 1 child removed from your home due to, you know, substance abuse, domestic violence, whatever it is that got you into that situation. And the third, all of a sudden I drew a blank, is that you have to work an active program of recovery. So, and recovery looks different for everybody, as we know. So it just kind of depends. You can be a person who attends NA meetings, you know, you can be a person who goes to church and, you know, does different things for your recovery. You know, we have people who, you know, go to celebrate recovery or smart recovery. So, you know, recovery looks good or different for everybody. You know, this is a big day for us where we all come together and celebrate that. And that's another reason why I believe we all love our jobs.
Yeah.
We're very family oriented.
So one of the things that we really focus on a lot is peer workforce development. So as part of doing really good peer work, we recognize the unique skills and understanding that peers enter the workforce with. And we also, over the years, have seen the pieces that it's the supervisor's job to help them skill build around, right? So folks come in understanding what recovery is, they understand that they are motivated to give back to their communities. They have a unique ability to connect with other folks. Sometimes folks come in really experienced at being able to share their story in public. But for the most part, folks need a lot of support around documentation. Folks come in with all different levels of education and professional experience, but by and large, most have never worked in an office setting before. Some folks, as part of their recovery program, have a basic understanding of self-care practices, and others don't, and that's part of what we focus on. We try to help folks build their motivational interviewing skills. We provide training around trauma-informed care. So we don't expect peers to come into their role already understanding how to be a peer support specialist, right? We have an intensive training program that all of the management team participates in. So we all train together. We all build relationship with all of the peers through that training process. And the state of Oregon has accredited our training program as that once you complete it, you're eligible to apply for your certified recovery mentor credential through our local credentialing agency. And the other thing I want to mention around trauma-informed care, this has been such an interesting experience. This conference is, it's so awesome to be just in company with so many other people that understand this work and this world that we work in. And someone else mentioned just the importance of understanding that just about everybody that is doing this work has an extensive trauma history, right? And that we're not doing our job as supervisors if we don't recognize that folks come in with all of that, right? Like systems trauma on multiple levels, and that has to be part of what you acknowledge and unpack a little bit in the training process. These are just some basic trauma-informed care principles from SAMHSA: safety, trust, transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and cultural, historical, and gender issues. There are lots of ways that I see my job as a supervisor as attending to all of these principles. I think my number one job is safety. So being willing to be the person in the room who addresses either the conflict or the thing that is unspoken or the reason that everybody's uncomfortable. I didn't come into this work knowing how to do that, but I quickly saw it modeled and figured out, okay, so we're not going to get anything done today unless somebody addresses that thing that just like made everybody's lid flip, right? If we're all in a meeting and somebody's said something and we're all elevated, that has to get addressed. And trust and transparency, I would say that after safety, trust is probably the number one supervisor task, right? Like we expect peers to go out and support parents and share their lived experience and kind of guide them and walk alongside them through a really, really difficult emotional process. And the person's not going to walk alongside them if they don't trust them, right? So not just in direct service and not just in one-on-one supervision, but in everything that we do as supervisors, we are either building and maintaining the trust that we've built with staff, or we're discarding it, right? And so we have to be really attentive to that trust.
That's neat. The trauma-informed care or team environment. So these are some of the things that we also do. So discussing and modeling self-care as a supervisor, making sure that we follow through on what our self-care is like and what we're doing. I want to say that we do really good, holding each other accountable, trying to eliminate burnout, making sure that our mentors are taking care of themselves. We do weekly team meetings. In my team, we have a meeting every Monday. We prepare an agenda so no one's caught off guard with anything that's coming up. We also invite the team to, send us emails of like who's gonna, who wants to lead the team that day, who, if anybody has any agenda items that they would like to talk about. We rotate leaders every week. We in our supervisions, we have a supervisor checklist, and it goes over things about like self-care and how's your family. We get very personal with our mentors. I can remember when I started as a mentor, my supervisor, the first thing she said was that she was going to be nosy in my life, so she can catch me on anything. If something was off, she was able to see it and ask me if I was okay. And my supervisions weren't just around my clients, they were around me as a person and in my own family. And then we would talk about our client care. Community meeting, which is part of the sanctuary model that we practice, and we'll get into that hopefully down there. And again, allowing our mentors to attend meetings if it's needed, if they're struggling or if they were at a court hearing that was really hard, and it, brings, like, I can remember sometimes it brings back stuff like that happened during my case, and it will make me feel some kind of way. So I was able to like call my supervisor and go to a meeting, and being able to staff that and having that trust in them. So. And then the next one, so our Parents Anonymous core values is parent leadership, shared leadership, mutual support, and personal growth. You know, this is part of, we have our Parents Anonymous support groups all over our counties. I want to say there's like, is it 13, Linda, meetings? Or
9.
Nine Parents Anonymous meetings. We believe that each parent has the ability to lead. You know, we have parent leaders along with our facilitators. Our facilitators aren't the experts. The parents lead those meetings. You know, part of a little history on our program and how it got started was there was this amazing lady named Ruth Taylor who ran these meetings inside a treatment center, and she was noticing the same, you know, people coming in and out, and she had asked them, like, what would make, you know, something be different for you guys, and they had told her, like, we need someone, you know, just like us, you know, kids getting taken, you know, and coming back to treatment, in and out of treatment, and, you know, we want someone who walked through our shoes, you know. And so she was able to start this program with like 5 mentors, and here we are, you know, over 15 years later with like 39 mentors, and a well appreciated program in our communities. You know, we get, you know, we believe in just supporting the parents where they're at, and those meetings, and just seeing those core values in everybody, that, you know, personal growth is possible. So, oh, we have a chat. Does Parents Anonymous have sister programs in other states? Linda May.
Yes, the answer is yes. I don't think we're in every state, but we have a huge network in California. I know there's also quite a network in New Jersey and Maryland, but you're welcome to reach out to us, and we can find out more in your area.
Yeah. All right. Parents Anonymous, Oregon Supervisor Culture. So supervisors hold hope for each mentor, personal and professional growth. Organized leadership supports low. So our supervisors is a ratio about 5 to 1, and with the caseload that the mentors carry is between 10 and 15 parents at a time. Mentors as well hold hope for every parent, you know, that there is change and there's room to grow. I would say getting, you know, for us, getting to know each mentor and like believing in them. You know, we come into this job, just a little bit of like about my experience. I came into this job not thinking that I would ever be in a workplace like this, from, you know, the destruction and stuff that I caused in my past and who I was. I never thought I would be able to be a person who had something to offer, and they came looking for me. And, you know, I heard that in another workshop this morning. I was like, they go looking for you. And I was like, oh, that's so true. And, you know, and here I am 5 years later. I started as a mentor, and, you know, I had no hope or experience. And like today, like, instead of, you know, I always say, instead of being the most wanted in the bad way, I'm the most wanted in the positive way in my community. And my voice is valid, you know, and it's really touches close. And, you know, I remember my supervisor always telling me, you can do this. I always say, like, I am not professional. I cannot be professional. And today, you know, I can see the opposite side of that. I can go around the state and share my experience, strength, and hope, and offer hope to people and to new DHS workers, case workers, you know, and showing that, you know, change is possible. Yeah.
So another tool that I want to share is the substance use disorder peer supervision competencies. Until recently, there wasn't a lot of formal information available about peer supervision competencies, and then some leaders in our field, in our region, Eric Martin and Anthony Jordan, and a group of peers doing work in our area, authored an indispensable curriculum based on a comprehensive lit review, and William White did the qualitative review for this tool. It is available free online. It looks like this. If you are a peer supervisor, please go to the website and print it out. It contains some pure gold And I will be doing a session on this at 4 o'clock if folks are still able to put anything else into their brains. This is a really useful tool, and it's really filled a gap in our field. It has a really great evaluation tool that we can use for peers that really, I think, resonates with the work that they do. So don't supervise peers without it. There's also a really great peer competencies tool available on SAMHSA's website, which we can post. But this has both peer supervisor competencies and an evaluation tool for peers, so it's pure gold. In Oregon, the peer supervisor requirements are that the supervisor has recovery experience as an individual who identifies as a person in recovery from substance use disorder, has occupational experience as a peer or other SUD behavioral health care experience, has completed the core substance use disorder training. And in Oregon, our administrative rules require supervision by a qualified clinical supervisor and a qualified peer-delivered services supervisor as resources are available. So we're lucky that we have, we've got those things covered because we have a number of folks on our team that have that lived experience. I need to plug in my laptop or I'm gonna lose you guys. Stacy, do you mind reading this slide? I'm gonna disappear for 1 second. Sorry.
So what is a supervisor? High quality supervision includes the following features. So development of a trusting relationship, focuses on empowerment, and emphasizes on building mentors' competency. I know Linda May knows more about this one because I believe it's from the Portland State University conducted a 3-year study on our program from 2012 to 2015.
Good job, Stacy. Thank you. Yeah, so Real University did a demonstration study on our program from 2012 to about 2015. And they did lots and lots of data collection and interviews with our team and with the parents that we served. And part of what they learned was that supervision was a really critical component of our program's success, and that 3 of the really important features were the development of a trusting relationship, focus on empowerment, and emphasis on building mentors' competencies.
All right. So supervisors care about the whole person. So, you know, I would say just for most of our stuff, it's not just about documentation. We conduct weekly strength-based supervision with each other, and that incorporates a personal and recovery check-in, and then your client care, like I talked about previously. Supervisors build a relationship with mentors and a role model of how they want them to work with the parents. So part of our parallel process. You know, I can say like we, you know, don't go in with a list of what we need to do. We go in with kind of just suggestions, and, you know, it's not about, you know, a lot of our stuff is parent led. So the parent gets to pick their goals of what we're going to be working on. You know, we're not going in there and saying, oh, this is what you need to do. You have to do this way right now. You know, we're able to connect on personal levels and all of that. And it's the same way in our supervisions. So and whatever the mentor is wanting to do or wanting to move towards, there's a lot of support in that. There's for clinical supervisors. Oh, I missed it. There was a chat. Did you see it, Linda May?
No. What does it say?
I'm trying to pull it up. Oh, I can't find it. It was for clinical supervisors. How much of their own personal lives do they share with the parent?
So my boss is the clinical supervisor. She doesn't do direct work with parents. So we all have clinical support, but we don't have folks with clinical licenses doing peer work. Does that answer the question?
think so. Meaning with the parent's worker. Oh, with the caseworker? Maybe meaning with the parent worker. Oh, mentor. Oh, so mentors do share our life experience. I mean, we keep our shares pretty much, it kind of depends on the parent and where they're at. We share certain parts of our stories to be able to connect in that space. I don't want to say we share all of our story all the time. We do share a lot of what our experience is and how we've navigated through the systems of child welfare. And does the supervisors share their own life experience? I do as a supervisor, because I do have that life experience. I have gone with mentors who were having a hard time connecting with clients sometimes, you know, or wanted another person. So I've gone with mentors and have shared my experience, strength, and hope as well with them. All right, and this one's mine. What do mentors say about their supervisors? So these are just some of the things that some of the mentors had sent in. So recovery first, family second, and job third. Supervisor encouraged us to take care of ourselves so that we better serve our parents. I appreciate the supervisor believes in the work that we do as parent mentors. My supervisor checks up with me about what I'm doing for self-care and how my recovery is going, which gives me an opportunity to share some of my feelings honestly and opening without feeling any judgment. I love that I can be completely honest with my supervisor. The supervisor has a unique ability to help me develop professionalism and set boundaries. So that is one of our biggest things about setting boundaries. You know, boundaries. I want to say, like, that's one thing we really preach about. Anything that you have any question about or anything that makes you feel weird that you did and you're not sure, you're always calling your supervisor and knowing that you're not going to get in trouble or, you know, or judged. You know, we're just really working on what boundaries look like for everybody.
So we talk a lot about taking a strength-based approach in our program, and a big part of that is the ability to give positive and constructive feedback. The reality is sometimes we have to also give critical feedback, and this was a topic in a session I attended earlier today, is like, how do you do that? How do you offer concise and accurate critical feedback that is helpful and that a peer can hear? So there's just so much science behind how much our brains focus on the negative. And so a lot of the work that we are doing as supervisors and the trust building that I was talking about before is just consistently acknowledging good work and noticing progress, not expecting perfection, but really making sure that a central part of the work that you are doing in supervision is providing positive feedback where it's warranted and noticing when a job was well done. Because I think oftentimes, I mean, I think about my personal relationships, we expect that people know that they're doing good work. We have to say it out loud, right? Like, I think about like my husband, right? And well, he knows I love him and he probably thinks the same, but like sometimes something will make you remember, like, oh, I actually need to say that out loud. Like, I need to remind people that I care, or I need to remind people that I see them. I see the good work that they're doing. So I don't know if that was a weird rabbit hole, but so the research says that we need to make 5 positive comments to every negative one for it to be effective and for you know, to nurture successful relationships and teams. I will say that since in our program we started using a very specific peer evaluation tool that is about what peers actually do, this has gotten even easier because it has a list of 25 or 30 competencies that we know are the things that peers should be doing and do really well. And it makes it a lot easier than just the standard HR evaluation form that's generic for every position in the organization, and that wasn't designed by peers for peers, right? Oh, I was going to ask a question there. How are we doing on time? Okay. Are there ways, and folks, you can raise your hands or say in chat, what are some examples of ways that you all give positive feedback to your staff or affirm that they're doing well?
Someone wants to know if you can share your evaluation.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I'm gonna unshare the PowerPoint for 1 second. See if I can pull it up. Ooh, I'm almost there. Okay, so I will, oh, where'd it go? I will email it to anyone who's interested. Oh, there it is. Let's see if it lets me share that. So this is at the very back of this thing that I'm going to send out the link to. It's part of the SUD peer supervision competencies. This is a tool at the back of this packet. So you can see some of the first competencies are about engaging clients across the continuum of the recovery process, right? So it's, you know, that you're willing to work with folks before they're ready to go to treatment, that you're willing to work with folks when they're making that difficult transition out of treatment. We also talk about, you know, you don't get, like, everybody that you work with isn't going to be ready to change, right? That you understand that folks are in pre-contemplation and you can figure out strategies to still engage those folks. Demonstrating the capacity to be non-judgmental and attentively listen, reflect accurate understanding of the client's experiences and feelings, clarifying their understanding of information when in doubt of the meeting. So these are all, like, all of these are fantastic. They really have been useful in our program. We also recommend the SAMHSA competencies, and I can send that link out as well. And we ended up using kind of a hybrid of this tool that I'm showing you now and the SAMHSA competencies, but they're very, very similar. Okay, I'm gonna unshare this, you guys, and then go back to the PowerPoint. But I really wanna promote that tool because it's so useful and relevant. Oh no.
Slide 7.
All right. So building trusting relationships, showing mentors you care about them. This is not just an administrative relationship, right? This is like no other relationship you've had at work before. This was not like your supervisor when you worked at Office Depot or Jack in the Box. This is a relationship with the supervisor in which your supervisor asks how things are going with you at home. They're curious about your experience in your recovery program. You prioritize their wellness and you notice when they are learning a new skill or taking positive steps. when you have criticism that you want to share, you approach it with curiosity and you ask, what happened? You don't ask, what were you thinking? It's more like, tell me what was going on for you in that moment, right? That you're using curiosity and humility to really understand why a misstep happened, and that you're still willing to address it and be direct about it, but you are trying to gather information about their experience. And then availability, right? Like, we can't do this if we don't pick up the phone or our door's not open. In our program, we are lucky to have lots of supervisors. And if I'm not available, somebody knows to call Stacy or Brittany or Alicia. And we have relationships with everybody. So everyone has established trust, and mentors are willing to sort of go down the list of the phone tree to reach somebody if they really need someone. Oh, I skipped one.
So focus on empowerment. Respect life experience as much as professional training. Provide opportunities for shared leadership and peer advocacy roles. So with this, we always encourage all of our mentors to step up in some advocacy role. Even when you're not ready, I think, we're able to give that push when we see the potential there. As for myself, I'm part of the Parents Advisory Council. So every quarter I meet with the director of DHS over child welfare, and we're able to come in and bring in like what's happening. We call it the ground truth. So what's happening in our counties and with child welfare, what resources are working, what resources aren't there. We do foster panel trainings. There's so many different advisories for like foster parents advisory. There's a father's advisory. DHS has asked for us to be on, if they're bringing in new ways to do their training, there's been some of those kind of things, and making sure the parents' voice is at every table that's possible. We're going to be going around the state again this year to be doing foster parent trainings. So just making sure that a parent's voice is there and we're heard. So, just bringing our experience to the table. I know there were some questions, but can people, in supervision, we process their work and I tell them when they are doing good or where I can explore with them. Can the people size be adjusted? Part of it's cut out. Oh, maybe part of the stuff is cut out.
The PowerPoint?
Oh yeah, there is part of it on the bottom's cut out.
Oh, Brian, what do we do about that?
I mean, it's the question in the box. I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
I mean, I could take it off slideshow. And
Or the presenting mode, maybe.
here, let's see if that works. Thank you for your patience.
Hi, this is Brian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So if you go into the sharing screen, like where you're sharing,
Yes.
and you go to the advanced tab,
Oh, okay.
you can go to portion of screen.
Portion
and
of
maybe
screen.
grab that and select what you want to, like draw a box around what you want to share and see if that repositions it.
Okay.
Like,
let me go to.
Yeah, now it's really big.
Better?
It fits now.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the comment. So we knew
Sure.
what was happening, you guys. All right. Building competencies. Stacy, is this you or me?
That's you.
So we really expect that part of what supervisors are doing in supervision with mentors is helping them build skill, right? Like great example is documentation. We don't expect mentors to come into this job understanding how to write a professional case note. We don't expect folks to understand all of the soft skills to be successful in an office environment. We don't expect folks to understand, I don't know, I guess some skills around like office politics and some of the weird stuff that you have to navigate when you have a workplace. And being able and willing to offer regular feedback and recognize when you see the mentor growing. And then lots of additional workforce development opportunities. I think part of sort of coming up through the ranks as a peer supervisor is that you're willing to develop your own training content, right? And present that to staff in our team meetings. You're willing to participate in training new mentors, right? Like when we see that there's a mentor on staff who has so much skill that they could probably teach one of our training modules, we know that they're ready to like move up the career ladder. And we also prioritize training funds so that mentors and supervisors can take paid trainings outside of our organization. All right, so here is the supervision checklist. This is a tool that we developed within our program to sort of develop agreement around the central tasks of supervision that we should all be doing, not every time, but every once in a while at least. So here you'll see, creating a to-do list. This is a really common thing that we expect mentors to do, to keep track of the different things that they need to take care of to support a parent over the next week, or to support all their parents, right? Like that might involve some writing things down. So it's a very basic skill. Bringing their charts in to review. We still have paper charts in our program, and so part of the supervisor's role is to make sure that the consent form is in there, the referral is in there. Reviewing an action plan or a DHS safety plan, or an individualized action plan, which is kind of like a goal sheet that mentors develop with parents. Discussed annual review goals. So these are not every single one of these tasks has to happen every week. We meet with mentors for an hour every week for supervision. But this checklist with all supervisors referring to it is going to help remind us of some of the central tasks of supervision, right? Like at some point, we remember to check in if a mentor is having a hard time with a specific parent, like asking, where do you think this parent is in the stages of change? And just referencing, MI skills and the stages of change. We see that as really an important part of what we do. We don't have to do it every single time. Supervision is a parallel process. Is there anybody who wants to share how they define parallel process? Do you guys use that term in your work? Anybody?
The same way that we, as supervisors, or that I as a supervisor work with my peer specialist in our supervision should, or often does, model or mimic or set an example for the ways that they are interacting with the clients that they're working with.
Yes, thank you. Awesome. When Stacy and I were talking about this last night, we were just thinking of an example of like, if I'm a supervisor who's really directive with a mentor and letting them know, well, here's all the stuff you need to take care of this week. Here are the things you need to get that parent to do. And I'm going to need you to do X, Y, and Z, right? Like if that is what most of our supervision consists of, then I'm role modeling that relationship for how they're doing their work with parents. And that would be bad, right? Like that specific example, not a good one. On the other hand, if what I am modeling is empathy and curiosity and trying to draw out what the mentor thinks will work in engaging with a parent, then that's probably the approach that they will be more likely to take in their work.
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Is this yours or mine?
That's both of mine.
Yeah, yeah. No one person is in charge of the boundaries police. We decided that last night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to, I think just touching on this because there's so much of like, you know, black and white, you know, there's the gray areas, you know, we practice a lot of boundaries within, you know, the mentors and like what is okay to do or what's not okay to do. Like we're not a program that can go out and just buy lunch or, you know, coffee on our own. Like we have to get, you know, permission from supervisor, you know, you have to save the receipt, you know, you can go and support that parent who's taking their first 30-day key tag, you know, and but then setting the boundary of like, but if I'm at a meeting and you run into me at a meeting, like, you know, you have to set the boundary up front if you're with your family or, you know, if you're there just for yourself, you know. I think there's a lot of stuff that can get crossed. So we're always working on boundaries. That's something that never goes away. There's always something new. There's always something that happens, you know, not giving people, you know, an old stroller that you haven't used that's been in the back of your car for a year, you know, because then we would have to give every client an old stroller that we had, you know, so really working on things like that. I don't know what.
Yeah, that, the other thing that I think about a lot is over the years, I've noticed that one of the areas of struggle for people in recovery doing this work is understanding the boundary between how do I operate as a person in recovery, in my recovery communities or in the rooms of 12-step, like supporting a newcomer versus how do I operate in my job as a parent mentor. Those two things can't be the same. There are lots of ways that they are the same, but Stacy's example of getting to buy somebody a cup of coffee, like as a person in the world in your recovery, you get to do that. As a person working for Morrison in the parent mentor program, you got to call your supervisor and say, hey, I'm with somebody who's really cold and hungry and I'd really like to buy them a cup of coffee and sit down and talk with them and get out of the cold. Is that okay? We don't want mentors going into their pocket to spend their own money on clients, right? So that's one example I think that comes up a lot. And I guess the other thing that I'll say about this boundaries work, because it never goes away, right? And good supervisors know that this stuff always comes up. There's always a new interesting mess that you couldn't have imagined how either how someone thought that was okay or just a really gray area where no one can quite sort through what the right thing is to do because it's genuinely just really hard, right? And so in those situations, I think it's really important that we do this work collectively, right? Like there's no one person on our team who is the anointed boundaries police. Like, oh, we'll go, you know, ask Brittany because she will always know the right thing to do around boundaries. Like that's not a thing. We all have to stretch ourselves and be willing to test like what we think is okay and what's not okay, and we have to consult with each other. And we have mentors coming to us with all of these interesting gray situations, and we need support around them. I mean, I'm the program director. I still got to call my boss half the time because just wouldn't believe the situations people get into, and we have to support them around boundaries. There are so many folks who we work with and who do this work with parents that didn't have healthy either emotional or professional boundaries modeled for them growing up or in their lives before they worked for us. And so that's so true for the parents that we work with who are involved in child welfare. And sometimes the mentor is the first person in their lives who has ever modeled that you get to have boundaries as a person in the world, right? That you get to say what's okay with you and what's not, and what feels safe and what doesn't.
Right, self-care. The importance of modeling self-care to our staff and preaching it, asking them, what do they do for their self-care? Any ideas? I think we also practice this a lot just because of the kind of work we do and where burnout comes in. So just being curious about, what do they do? Or, we sometimes we'll do exercise during team, or, they'll want to do a meditation, or someone, bring something to the table that they've done for self-care. We've had self-care buddies and stuff before. So, yeah.
And you know what I just realized, Stacy? I want to give our program a shout out because I think that like 4 or 5 years ago, I think we were talking a lot about self-care, and now I think we're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was super common for mentors to ask their supervisors, like, what are you guys doing for self-care? Where do you guys get your support? You guys are always supporting us. And our answer was usually like, just whatever. And eventually that got so uncomfortable that we, I think, developed some skill and muscle around being able to walk the walk of self-care and not just preach it and send people to trainings. And I think it's a lot more common now that supervisors do talk about, what they do to take care of themselves and their self-care practices, which involves some of the things on this slide.
Yeah. I just want to put a reminder out there that we're at 3:33. So.
Okay, thank you. That's perfect.
And you're next.
All right, weekly team meetings. This might be my favorite slide because I'm so passionate about this. There are lots of things that we do that we could throw out the window and probably still have a supportive program and a program that makes people feel connected. Weekly team meetings is not one of those things. This is part of the magical glue that holds us together. It's one of the reasons that we have excellent staff retention. It's the reason that mentors say they love their jobs. We meet with our teams every week and we're constantly building trust as a team. We start our week connected. Folks get to talk a little bit about what happened over their weekend. They're checking in with each other. And it's another opportunity for supervisors to be doing the work of trust building, right? Predictability, it happens every week. Everybody knows team is on Monday or on Tuesday for one of our other teams. Everybody knows to expect it. It happens every week. It always has the same format. There's a lot of different content that gets offered so things don't get stale, but everybody knows what to expect. Group supervision / case staffing. This is an opportunity for the seasoned and experienced mentors who've been doing this work for 5 years or more to share their experience and wisdom and expertise with our new staff. Right, so this is a really important opportunity for newer mentors to be hearing how an experienced mentor would approach a really difficult situation with a parent that they're working with. Support, helping each other cope. This is the purely kind of social aspect of this professional tool, is that we're getting to know each other in team meetings. And so if Stacy comes to team on Monday and had a really tough weekend, her team is going to care about that, and Stacy is going to feel safe to share about what happened, and folks will provide empathy and support and give her a hug, right, Stacy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just connection, right? We know that part of folks experiencing
Oh,
trauma.
I was just giving a demonstration of the hand raise.
Oh, I didn't see it. Stacy, can you see the hand raise?
No. Nope, I don't see any.
Do we have somebody who's raising their hand? Okay. So just connection. The reason that weekly team meetings are so important is that it reminds us we are not the only person doing this work, right? We are not doing this work alone. It would be too hard to do it alone. Your team is there, your supervisor is there, folks with more experience than you are there. Your BFF that you like to go on your coffee break with is there, and we're connected. We're starting our week connected, and we're learning. Our small team meetings, we often provide sort of mini trainings, or we address like suddenly realizing, oh, we don't really understand how restraining orders are working right now, and we need to provide some content around that, or we need to bring in a community partner to explain that new process. And fun, right? Like we get to know each other, we care about each other, we laugh. Sometimes somebody shares something funny that happened to them over the weekend, and we care about each other, and we have fun together. And that's part of what makes us an effective team. Okay, I take it back. This is actually my favorite slide. Here's our written agenda for our weekly team meetings. And here's why it's important. Folks know what to expect. How many folks have ever been to a staff meeting where the supervisor dropped a bomb that you weren't expecting, right? That you got surprised with a new policy or decision that got made that you didn't have any, you had no idea it was coming, right? So a written agenda gives people the opportunity to see what's up for discussion that day. There's no surprises, it's all right there. Here's another important component of the written agenda. So we do rotating team leaders. So we practice shared leadership. We don't have the same facilitator. Everybody gets to practice facilitating the team meeting. We say who the team leader is, and then we say who's not there and why. And the reason that that's important is if somebody's not in the team meeting, other people are going to notice, right? And if somebody's not in the team meeting 2 or 3 times out of the 4 times that month, people are going to build a resentment, and they're going to think, oh, well, Michelle doesn't have to come to team meetings. Why do I have to be here? Right? Like I got stuff I got to do. Why is Michelle here? Her supervisor doesn't make her come. Well, it turns out Michelle is taking her son to his first day of middle school, and she wanted to be there for him, right? And that's an experience and a milestone that other folks can relate to. And so it makes everything transparent, right? Like here's where your team members are that aren't in the meeting today. And then letting folks know if somebody's gonna be going on vacation or being out of the office. It gives them a heads up. Brittany's not gonna be in the office for support on Thursday and Friday. It also gives people a heads up to ask Brittany how her vacation went when she comes back. Something that I just wanna point out is there are a lot of announcements on this agenda, but announcements are not the sole focus of the meeting, right? Like we don't just come together to share information. We come together to connect, to build our skills around working with clients, and to be together. So information sharing matters, but we're also, if you can look at the bullet points at the very bottom, we're asking if people need support. We're asking if folks have important announcements, and we're asking folks to share gratitude as a matter of course. Like we just build that into our team meeting. Actually, this is an old agenda, and one of our new bullet points says, can anyone share an example of anti-racist practice in their work this week? There's somebody who's not on mute. Is there somebody that can mute the mic? Okay, I guess we'll keep going. So, the community meeting.
All right, so community meetings, so this is part of our sanctuary training. And so these are the 3 questions that we ask. You know, we change up the middle question every now and then, but so there's, how are you feeling today? What is your goal for today? And who can you ask for support or help today? You know, sometimes we'll throw in a fun question of like, if you can be a superhero, who would you be? Or, you know, I love that one because it's so nice to hear everybody's answers, you know, or, you know, we're able to take the temperature around the table of how everybody's doing, you know, who really needs the space to be able to, you know, talk or get support that they need. You know, a lot of us come into this work and we can't even identify a feeling or anything like that. You know, a lot of us grow up with not, you know, being told not to feel or not to show your feelings and to hide that. So, you know, there's a lot of, I think we should call it emotional intelligent growth, right? So, you know, we get to just like figure out, you know, when we first started Sanctuary, I remember we would post feelings on the wall because for, you know, peers and mentors, sometimes it was hard for us not to just say like, oh, we feel good, you know, and that's not a feeling, you know, so to be able to point that out, like, oh, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling, you know, very excited, you know, and sometimes it feels weird to say that when you're you're growing up and you're not allowed to show any emotion.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of our community meetings, which I think brings so much to our team. And not only in team do we do it if we're, you know, in another office and we see another mentor or another supervisor and you're checking in with them, we always start with community meeting, which allows us to grow so well. So
we do this to start our small teams, but we also do it in our all staff once a month, which is 45 people.
yeah.
It takes a little while, but it's also an incredible way to build intimacy in a really large room full of a whole bunch of people, and it can be really powerful. So the community meeting is a tool from the sanctuary model. The sanctuary model is a blueprint for clinical and organizational change, which we don't have time to go into in depth today, but I definitely encourage folks to Google the sanctuary model and Google the work of Sandra Bloom. It's quite a big deal to become sanctuary certified. It's a 3 to 5 year process that our organization, Morrison Child and Family Services, has undertaken. It's a lot of work, and it's probably also an expensive model. I don't actually really know how much it costs, but there are a lot of tools that are supporting our program and in Morrison's other 21 programs in becoming a more trauma-informed organization. A traumatic experience impacts the entire person, the way we think, the way we learn, the way we remember things, the way we feel about ourselves, the way we feel about other people, and the way we make sense of the world. These are the 7 principles of sanctuary. You'll notice one of them was, Stacy was just talking about emotional intelligence, and that being able to build that skill around feelings identification that so many peers kind of grew up without. Nonviolence, social learning, democracy, open communication is probably the one that is the most difficult, right? Nobody likes to give difficult feedback. That's always a challenge, is working on your communication and being willing to give direct feedback, but in a way that people can hear. And hopefully when you need to give it, you have enough goodwill in the bank from all of the previous praise and encouragement that you've shared with your colleague. Social responsibility and growth and change. Hey, we did it.
Oh, sorry. Annie was asking to share our PowerPoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have time for questions. Folks can either type them and chat them or turn their mics on and ask them. Is anybody chatting anything?
Nope, just the PowerPoint. So,
Okay. We have a handful of like ending slides, so I'll advance the slides, but folks can still, is somebody asking something?
It was really helpful. Thank you, Annie. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Annie. These are a bunch of the people that helped our program.
Do you have any changing process given the current quarantine?
Oh boy, do we. Yeah, so we've been working hard on that for the last couple of weeks. Right now, the first thing that we did was we sort of suspended community outreach. So a lot of the work that our mentors do is they go to do outreach in the community at places where people who don't have homes gather and stay. So they might be doing outreach under a bridge or in a parking lot. They might be going to a treatment center, a jail. So we sort of immediately responded by suspending community outreach and just saying we don't get to do that work until things are safer. We are asking mentors to do all of their work by phone and video chat right now, except in some limited urgent situations, which we're asking folks to get approved by a supervisor. So unfortunately, even though everything shuts down, sometimes child welfare processes still keep rolling. So for example, we had a parent who still had to get to that UA, right? And so one of our supervisors, Leah, approved the mentor to go take that parent and make sure that they got their UA that day after confirming that the parent didn't have any symptoms, right, of the coronavirus. We are also trying to get our parent support groups up and running online. We're working on that.
And Linda May, just so you know, Brian sent an email, so you can send the link to him for a presentation. Slide and video. Oh, he sent that out. So there's an email that you can see the slides and videos.
Thank you, Brian.
What does your team do if a mentor has a relapse or stops attending recovery?
So if you relapse, you lose your job as a mentor. That's been our policy and practice for the last 15 years. Folks need continuous clean time to work as a mentor in our program. Having the lived experience of substance use disorder, addiction, and recovery is still criteria for all of our staff, even though a lot of the parents that we serve don't necessarily have substance use disorder. But we do require that because the vast majority of families involved with child welfare become child welfare involved due to substance use. So we really need folks with that specific skill set. But they do sometimes work with folks who have experienced DV or have mental health experiences, and that's the reason for their child welfare involvement.
And we also have a track that is preventative work and SSP. So what is it? SSP is self-sufficiency services. So
yes,
which also is preventative work, but everybody still has to have the lived experience. So because most of those are high risk and can end up into child welfare cases that we get refers for. Yeah.
All right.
Look at that.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your attention and participation, and it was nice to see some of your faces and hear your questions. Feel free
Thank you
to
very much.
reach out. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck in your next session, Linda May.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you. This was very informative.
Thank you, Janet. Nice meeting you.
You as well.
Hello, Brian. This is Adria.
Hi there.
Hi. I am waiting for my turn.
Okay, I'm going to put up the slide real quick, and then I'll switch you to the host.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, do you have my old slides? I have new slides.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any slides. I'm just going to put up a banner that says what your presentation's about,
Okay.
and then I'll switch out of that, and you go ahead with it. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Share my slides. Okay.
Actually, I'll turn you over to be the host now, and you can put up your slides, and let's just get started that
Okay.
way.
Very good.
Let's see.